University's Great Valley School of Graduate Professional Studies. And I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Sébastien Pointe. Sébastien?
Hello Denise, my name is Sébastien Pointe. I'm full professor at the University of Strasbourg in France, and I'm here as a visiting professor to teach a class about European leadership. Kind of great experience. Well, the thing is, Strasbourg, we have always been very international because we got more than 130 partnerships in terms of universities all over the world, so it's quite common for us to welcome professors, scholars from all over the world to come for a couple of hours teaching in our university. In terms of the students, it's also highly international. It's very common having, let's say, at least 20 or 30 different nationalities in a single class for undergraduates. So I would say that teaching in France or teaching in the US at first sight is just fairly the same thing, because the audience you got in front of you is just like highly international. However, what may vary from one audience to another is the background the students have from their own country. Here in the United States, I have to adapt probably the examples I'm going to raise in the class, because students may not have the same knowledge or background about the companies. So that's why even if I'm going to talk about the big companies, largest French companies from the CAC 40, which is our national French stock exchange, it might be difficult for the students to really get to know what I'm really talking about, because they only heard about the company. You see? Maybe you experienced the same thing in France.
Absolutely, I found that too. Not only did my frame of reference have to shift a bit as we would do cases on certain companies that were very familiar to me. I give the example in the Grande École HR course that I recently taught in France. I used a case study of Hershey, right? And who doesn't know Hershey chocolate and Hershey bars and Hershey Kisses? Well, most of Europe, right? Because there's so many other types of chocolate available. This isn't the company, that people visit the amusement park or go through the chocolate factory as maybe Americans do, or at least northeastern U.S. American citizens might. So the context of choosing cases and naming companies was not a challenge, but it required some adaptation. To say, well, name the biggest company you can think of. And, what I had in mind was not always what the students would come up with, and we had to negotiate that a lot, frequently in the classroom.
So maybe you assume that students already know maybe kind of concepts or examples for that company, but in fact they do not. So you have to adapt in the sense that you have to spend some time more on specific things that you assume people will. So students are maybe universal, or in the way that our teaching style may not differ from one country to another, because we both use, I assume, case studies, videos, but maybe what is changing, which is what I'm noticing in Bay State, is the motivation of students. Because maybe I'm a foreign scholar, and it's the first time I've been knowing so far that you bring an international scholar here on campus, in the Great Valley campus. But I found students so eager to learn, and to learn about Europe, to learn about France, that they just very highly motivated. They're going to read all my material, they're going to do everything I'm going to say, and I'm very pleased about that.
The students I met in France were also delightful. In the executive MBA program, they bring a lot of experience, and we're very open and indeed eager to experience. Just as our students here really enjoyed meeting Sébastien online, but they also learned something new. They learned a new perspective, not a new language in terms of English, right? Everything was in English, but a new language of business to talk about familiar issues, but maybe from a new perspective. And it was a really great and rewarding experience to be able to extend our efforts for sustainable business development, for example, into a whole new arena, and get a group of students, very enthusiastically talking about something new, way over there in France, or in Europe. So it was the eagerness and the enthusiasm for international faculty works both ways, at least in my opinion. The students on both sides, I think, are just delightful.
So we're both international human resource management professors, and we teach cross-cultural management, but we still have to adapt to us ourselves when we just teaching from one place to another.